Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of J-Rank. Today we're taking a look at the top 25 teams in college football after an incredibly hectic Week 6. Let's get into it. Just missed Syracuse, Notre Dame, UNLV, Colorado, Missouri. Okay, as a reminder of how I do these rankings, basically the number of wins is kind of determines the order. For example, no 4-win teams are above 5-win teams. If you're 5-1 versus 5-0, whatever, well, you've played more games, so you've had more opportunities to both win and lose. So I'm only looking at the number in the win column for that. If you disagree, let me know. I'm curious to see your reasoning. Of course, there are some teams that have looked more powerful in fewer games or smaller sample size, and so I can respect that. But this is the way we're going to do it on this channel. So, just missed. Starting off, number 25, Washington State. They've played incredible football. They got, besides when they got destroyed by Boise State, which isn't embarrassing. Boise State is a very good football team. They're led by John Mateer, who is an incredible football player. I really like Washington State. Clemson, since getting absolutely annihilated by Georgia in Week 1, they've looked very strong. ACC frontrunners for sure. Them, Miami, and SMU, in my opinion, are the top 3 in the ACC. Number 23, Tennessee. They've looked strong, really strong, up until the Arkansas kind of exposed their flaws. They're not that explosive offensively, which isn't exactly what we're used to seeing from Tennessee. Their defense is very, very good, but without that explosiveness on offense, they held Arkansas, who's very, very good offense, to just 19 points. But their offense only mustered up 14, so there's that. Boise State is over them at 22. I really like Boise State. Their running back, Ashton Jeanty, my Heisman pick, if I picked today, best player in the country. They absolutely bulldozed all over Utah State. They're number 22. Their one loss was against Oregon, Oregon is a very good football team. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. They barely lost at Oregon. I mean, that's saying something. 21, Kansas State. They got destroyed by BYU. But aside from that, really aside from the 6 minutes where BYU just blew them out of the water, Kansas State has looked like a very, very good football team. Their running attack is phenomenal. Their defense is very strong. So Kansas State at 21. Number 20, Georgia. Georgia's played great football. Even that Alabama game, they played amazing football. They're a very good team. They'll continue to climb these rankings as they continue to win, and I expect them to. Alabama at 19. That game against Vanderbilt was insane. Vanderbilt played incredibly. Vanderbilt's good. I told you guys this. I don't know what happened in Vanderbilt's loss to Georgia State, but Missouri, that game, Vanderbilt, really, they should have won it. They tweaked a few things, and they were able to knock off Alabama this time around. But Alabama's still the best 4-win team in the country. They're still better than Georgia. People forget that Alabama beat Georgia, and they had a huge lead over Georgia. I mean, I don't understand how Alabama is below Georgia in the AP poll when they beat them head-to-head 1 week ago. Let's slow down, guys. Now, 5-win teams. Duke is the worst 5-win team. I expect them to end with 7 or 8 wins. They're not very good, but they have 5 wins, and so the way we do these rankings, I'm slotting them in at 18. 17, Sam Houston. They haven't really played anybody, but, they're 5-1. That's pretty good. Second year in the FBS. They've looked better than Duke, at least. So sliding Sam Houston there at 17. 16, Nebraska. Nebraska versus Texas Tech was kind of tough for me. Nebraska looked good early on. They had that win over Colorado. That's impressive. They lost to Illinois, obviously. Nebraska's a tough one. They're a Big Ten team, which means their offense is meh and their defense is sound. But I like Nebraska. Texas Tech is a tough one. We're not going to talk about their first couple games because, well, we are, but let's try to forget those because overtime, Abilene Christian, you shouldn't have to take Abilene Christian to overtime. And then getting steamrolled by Washington State, who is a good team, but still, that's not exactly the look you want. But all of a sudden, 3-0 in Big 12 play. They've looked really strong the last few weeks. And Texas Tech is a Big 12 contender, which makes them a playoff contender. So Texas Tech at 15. Army versus Navy, I'm not sure where to put who. I think the Army-Navy game at the end of the season could end up being the who gets the playoff spot game. And with the way college football is shaping up, I don't think it's just a stretch to say one of these teams and Boise State makes the playoff this year. Because I think Boise State can absolutely run the table in the Mountain West. The Mountain West's their only real competition is UNLV, and to a lesser degree, maybe a little San Jose State. But Boise State should win the Mountain West, and Ashton Jeanty should win Heisman at this point, although Travis Hunter has made a case for him. We kind of forgot about him because the Buffaloes had a bye week. Jalen Milroe, of course, wasn't great against Vanderbilt. The pick and the fumble were not at good times, although neither of those was completely his fault. But nevertheless, Boise State, if they have the Heisman front runner and they continue to play like they have, I don't see how you keep a one-loss Boise State, especially with their one loss being at Oregon, who will make the playoffs. Boise State's getting in. These two, if they're both undefeated going into that game, the Army-Navy game at the end of the season, the winner should make the playoffs. If you're undefeated, you should make the playoffs in the 12-team format, absolutely. So that'd be really cool. Great way to initiate the new 12-team playoff. Both these guys are led by some amazing quarterback, running backs. That's how they do it at Army and Navy. But nevertheless, Bryson Daly, Blake Horvath, incredible players for these two schools. Ole Miss at 12. I know they just lost to Kentucky and whatever, but Jackson Dart, man, he's still a Heisman contender for sure. He's passing the lights out of everybody. They destroyed South Carolina. Ole Miss is still very good. 11 Pitt, they're undefeated. They've played a hard schedule, decently hard schedule, so I'll give them lots of respect for that. That West Virginia win's continuing to look better and better. So I like Pitt at 11. Number 10, Texas A&M. They destroyed Missouri. Missouri's very good, although they haven't played anybody, so we think they're very good. But I think Missouri's pretty good. And Texas A&M absolutely destroyed them. So Texas A&M, based on their recent play, I'm slotting them in at 10. Through the first few weeks, I was a little skeptical of them. They haven't really gotten over Jimbo Fisher and all that. But no, they have. The last few games have been really impressive. Texas A&M at 10. SMU at 9. Besides the BYU-SMU game in week 2, that was an 18-15 disgusting football game, unless you are in love with defense. SMU has been probably the best offense in the country, besides that one game, which will absolutely tank their analytics. But they've averaged 46 points outside of that game this season. That's incredible. 34 points against Louisville this last week was their least of the season, besides the BYU game. I mean, this is an explosive offense led by Kevin Jennings, who became the permanent starting quarterback after that BYU game. Since then, SMU's looked unstoppable. They're completely able to contend in the ACC this year. I don't think that's a stretch to say that SMU is not only a playoff contender and not only an ACC contender, but an at-large playoff contender should they not win the ACC. BYU at 8. They've played impressively. That Kansas State win obviously looks strong. The SMU win keeps looking better. That's why I have them here. There's still some question marks for this team for sure. Offensively, there were some question marks that appeared to be answered in the first half against Baylor a couple weeks ago. BYU's coming off a bye this last week. But then the second half offense was abysmal and disgusting for BYU. But the first half and really first 3 quarters defense, which defense had been BYU's calling card earlier, was kind of shaky, I would say. But then it really stepped up in the fourth quarter, and BYU beat Baylor. So at Baylor, at SMU, and then at home against Kansas State. That's 3 really good wins. There's a reason BYU has the number 1 strength of record, according to ESPN, in the country right now. Number 7, Iowa State might have the best defense in the country. One of them for sure. I mean, they have allowed 50 points through 5 games. That's really not that much. And their offense is very balanced. Top 30 rushing and defense, or both rushing and passing, I believe, in terms of efficiency. I mean, this is an efficient, well-oiled team. Abusama, Rocco Becht, they're good. Penn State at 6. Seems self-explanatory to me. To have Penn State 6, Ohio State 5, Oregon 4. All those guys, they've played strong. They haven't always looked completely perfect, but they haven't looked really vulnerable either, I would say. Number 3, Texas. They're the best 5-0 team, in my opinion, and I don't think it's close. Consider how they've played with Arch Manning these last couple weeks. They'll be so much better. People forget how good Quinn Ewers was. The win over Michigan isn't exactly aging well, but some other wins are. 52-3 against Louisiana Monroe. That's Ulm's only lost. That win is aging about as well as a win against Ulm can age, And so Texas, they're looking impressive. Top 2, are these the 2 best teams in the country? I don't know, but they're the only 2 who are 6-0. Bowl eligibility already, guys. Come on now. Miami, should they be 4-2 if the ACC refs didn't love them so much? That's a topic for another day. But regardless, the fact that Miami came down from down 25 and put themselves in a position where a play like that could make or break the game is pretty impressive. 35-10 was the score. And then all of a sudden, 39-38, Miami wins that game against Cal. Phenomenal game. Crazy game. And Cam Ward, the ACC refs are establishing themselves as Heisman contenders for Miami. But Cam Ward, he's kind of getting slept on because of the narrative around Miami. Oh, they should have lost to Virginia Tech. Maybe. That was totally targeting. Yeah, it probably was. But regardless, Miami's 6-0, and that's impressive to do. Indiana, I'm slotting over Miami solely because Indiana doesn't have any wins where I don't know if they were really the better team. And, I don't know if the refs had to carry them on this one. But Indiana has looked so good. Curtis Rourke, phenomenal player for Indiana. They're the number 1 team in the country, in my opinion, based on their resume. 6 wins. 6 wins, guys. That's not easy to do. It's especially not easy to do for Indiana. This is Indiana. They're playing really good football. Are they a Big Ten contender? Absolutely. Now, yes, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, these are the 3 favorites, for sure. If anybody's going to upset them and, surprise people, it's going to be Indiana. Nobody else from the Big Ten stands out to me as a top 4 team in the Big Ten. It's these 4. Nebraska's the next one, and then Michigan is somewhere. If they can have a real quarterback, maybe. But that's my top 25. Indiana, Miami, Florida, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State are the top 5 in the latest episode of J-Rank. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. And tune in again next time. We're going to be talking about the Heisman favorites so far through the season. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.